Hi, everyone. Welcome to Big Questions. My name is Emily. Big Questions is a chance to ask, discuss, and investigate the big questions of life, its meaning, and the claims of Jesus. Last week, we looked at the implications of Jesus' claims on human identity and worth, which is a question that's relevant to all of us and is integral to our view about the world and reality. Today, we'll be exploring specifically what Jesus says about joy. The title is, "This Too Shall Pass, Does Joy Ever Last?" Many think that faith of any kind is just a dogmatic killjoy. And at the same time, for all of us now, especially in such a busy period in Cambridge, joy seems to be sucked out of all our days, stored up for May week, which is coming after exams. But we know that the fun of May week comes quickly to an end, and we're sucked back into work in Michaelmas, or maybe even in summer if you're doing one of those internships. And then we'll just be waiting for the next high in the next May week, which is actually really far away in June 2020. Is joy any more meaningful than the temporary, illusory reward for work at the end of the year? That would speak quite gloomy news into our universal search for joy that we observe in the world around us and even in ourselves. Amidst the futility, the seeming futility of our search for joy, what does Jesus say? That's the question that we'll be exploring today. Our speaker for today is Dave Gobbett. He is the lead pastor of Highfields Church in Cardiff. Previously, he was an engineer here at Qestions. So in just a moment, Dave will be hopping up. After the 20-minute talk, there will be time for some Q&A. There will be a physical mic that's going around, so you can ask your question in person. Otherwise, if you prefer to text in your question, the number for that is on the pillars around as well as here. So I'll pass this now to Dave.
You're very kind. You have no idea what I'm going to say, but thank you for the applause. It's lovely to be back here in Cambridge. I love the fact that just literally in the middle of exams and May week, you're holding out for May week, and we're being told it's going to go very quickly as well. So you'll be back in exams before you know it, so don't forget that. No, it's great to be here this lunchtime. Thanks for your welcome, Emily. Let me remind you or introduce you to the character Frank William Abagnale. I don't know if you know the name of Abagnale. He's a messed up kid. His whole life fell apart when his parents broke up, and he seeks to find joy and meaning and satisfaction in his life by going on the run. And he runs and he runs, and he thinks he can make his world happier and more stable and more secure by faking it. By faking it big time, faking bank checks from all 50 states of the United States. And he gets a taste for pleasure and joy and seeking it hard, and he won't let go of it. And you may know the movie about Frank Abagnale, Catch Me If You Can. Leonardo DiCaprio stars Frank and Tom Hanks, Carl Hanratty, the FBI agent, hunting him down. And what Frank gets up to seems hardly believable. He tries to escape and find joy in faking these checks, cashing over $6 million all over the United States. And to keep the checks coming in, if you've not seen the movie, he pretends to be an airline pilot. And then he pretends to be a doctor, then he pretends to be a lawyer, and he even pretends to be the FBI agent hunting himself down. And he's faking his way through life, enjoying the life of a playboy, living for highs, fast cars, throwing wild parties, pulling beautiful women, leaving broken relationships in his wake, and all before his 19th birthday. So if you're already 19, you've kind of missed it as far as Frank is concerned. And he would do anything as long as it made him happy. It filled the void, the search for joy and significance, the rush, chasing dreams, living it up, never looking back. But does joy last? That's the question we're thinking about this afternoon. Of course, you don't need to be a multi-millionaire fraudster to get the taste of joy and not to want to let go of it. Take another favourite film in our house back in Cardiff, La La Land. I don't know if you saw that one. Ryan Gosling is Sebastian, the jazz singer, and Emma Stone is Mia, the upcoming actress. And it's a romantic comedy, only not, because as the movie goes on, and sorry if you've not seen it, I'm going to spoil it for you, the sense of anticipation as they're pursuing their dreams, the jazz club, the Hollywood actress, building up, and it seems they're going to get together. And then they don't. And it all kind of falls apart. And they're all left, and you're left. You leave the theatre or stop the DVD, and you think, oh, wow, is that really all there is? You're pursuing a dream so hard at the expense of the most important relationship, and you're left feeling a bit meh, a little bit, that wasn't really what I was hoping for. They were looking for joy, but it went wrong. In some senses, it is although very attractive when we chase something down, we live it up, we never look back, we run hard after whatever makes us happy. And I think in many respects, to be a human being is to pursue joy and to look hard after it. You come away to university and the aim is to pursue joy however and wherever it can be found. Maybe you can pull in your first year. You can make the first 8 or make the first 15. Maybe you get the first class degree at the end. Maybe for you, then the joy is found in the new gadget. Oh, yes, get me that new piece of software, the holiday. We can't wait. We can't wait for the night out. We can't wait for the must-have top or shoes or bag or whatever it may be. Escape the monotony of the cycle of work and exhaustion and depression in 21st century life, and think of yourself for a change. I always remember the ad for Diesel, the fashion company, a few years ago. Think of all the bad things in the world. Now think of shopping. That is why I shop. The healing power of the high street or of Amazon, and we get the pull. We think, I could be happy, I could find joy here. The sugar rush we get on our latest purchase or pull or movie or gig, incredibly addictive. Achieving high grades, oh yes, the hit. Maybe we've got more in common with Frank Abagnale than we first thought. Living it up, chasing dreams, chasing joy, never looking back. But does joy ever last? That's our question today. 2,000 years ago, Jesus Christ told a story about someone a little bit like Frank. The story is found in Luke's Gospel. And we've got a bunch of Luke's Gospels on the tables around you. Now, you may have never read the Bible before. You may think it's totally irrelevant. But actually, I think, and many, many people think that what is written in Luke's Gospel and the other Gospels is incredibly relevant. It can be proved as being authoritative. We're going to dive into Luke's Gospel. And I'd love you to turn to, let me see the page number here. It's page 42 of these little Luke's Gospels. Basically, Jesus has been saying some pretty controversial things, but despite that, rather than being kind of no platformed, people just want to hear him more and more and more. Eventually, he's going to end up going to the cross for what he's saying. But he's on a journey from chapters 9 to chapter 19 of Luke's Gospel, traveling from the north where he lives by Lake Galilee all the way down south to Jerusalem, where he's going to be crucified. And as he walks along, he meets someone. In fact, someone shouts out to him in the crowd. And you'll see, I think, in our passage, little number 13. Let me read these words out. Someone in the crowd, page 42, little number 13. Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Jesus sees through him straight away and says, "Man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you?" Then he said to them, "Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." And he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, "What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "This is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry." But God said to him, "You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with anyone who stores up things for himself, but is not rich towards God." Jesus is basically saying two things to the voice among the masses. In the race of life, the pursuit of anything and everything that we might head after, point one, you can run. You can run. In this story, Jesus is telling a parable. Clearly, this is a keen farmer he's describing. He's had a bumper crop. It would have taken sweat and tears and sleepless nights and aching muscles in order to strike it big time. This is your kind of finals and the first year of work, your summer internship, your professional qualification exams all rolled into one. And he's worked hard. The elbow grease has paid off. He's achieved. He's bet big. He's won big. He's now, I guess, driving his Aston Martin DB6, wearing the Sean Connery suit. but he's still not content. The joy of what he's achieved is still not there. What does he say? What should I do? I've run out of barn space to keep it all. I need more. I need more room. The 3-bedroom semi-detached bachelor pad with 4K TV screened and surround sound are not big enough for me to cope with all my winnings. I need more. I've got to expand. I've got to spend money to make money, get more. Somewhere with a drive to park the boat out the front, the 4x4. And so Jesus says he tears up his deeds to the barn, plans the upgrade, gets ready to kick back, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we diet. Desire consumes us. The pursuit of joy can just be relentless sometimes, can't it? Sure, we don't have the massive disposable income that this guy has got, but who here would not say that we have not had the sense of, I want to pursue joy, I want to pursue a dream, I want to chase something down so hard and so far and so fast that, I'm prepared to tread on people on the way. Whether it is that relationship in my freshers year, or making the college or the uni sports team, or getting into the orchestra, or getting the great internship in the summer, or the graduate job when we leave. We're looking for joy. We think, I want to achieve. I want the smile of mum and dad as I get my first-class degree. They've paid so much for me to be here. I've got to get it. I want to pursue it. And maybe we'll trample on someone mid-route, but we keep on running and we look for the satisfaction. We look for the joy we're craving. But does joy, if you get it, ever last? Or does it tend to fall through the hands like sand? Here's what I read from a recent edition of Cosmo magazine. I'm not a regular subscriber, but this is what I read recently. Last January, desperate and dateless, in quotes, the world's largest blind date party was organised in London. Nearly 2,000 tickets were bought for the event, and the heat was on to pull by the end of the night, if not with your allocated date. Self-confessed, we're told, desperados dreamt of romance with the longing not to go home empty-handed. And apparently for those who are slow getting off the ground, huge mobile phones stood either side of the stage displaying text messages to the masses all night. Quotes, perfect for secretly ditching the date and trying someone new, writes Emma Creamer. And later on in my brown paper bag covered Cosmo magazine I was reading, I saw the story of Ben Michael, age 26, serial adulterer, self-confessed serial adulterer. He says, quotes, I've cheated in all 4 of my relationships, and it's the best sex I get, illicit affair sex. I love it. I satisfy myself sexually and then I leave. 9 times out of 10, I call my girlfriend straight away because I feel so guilty. It's rare a man will leave his girlfriend for the other woman. I've never been prepared to. For all I know, they could be seeing other people. We're told singleness is loneliness, betrayal is sexy, chase your own dreams, live for the joy of the moment, live it up, never look back. But does joy ever last? Jesus knows this is human nature. Everybody runs. We all run. That's why in this race of life, the first thing he says to that voice that calls out to him from the masses is, you can run. Everybody runs. That's our first simple lesson. Here's the second one, but you can't hide. You can run, but you can't hide. Where do we leave the rich man? We left him with his Netflix remote in one hand, glass of red wine in the other, or maybe more accurately, little number 19 saying, you have plenty of good things laid up for yourselves for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry. Easy life. Run hard, chase dreams, pursue joy, live it up. Catch me if you can, he says. But then God pipes up with some other ideas. Verse 20. God said to him, you fool. This very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? And at that moment, it's a kind of mic drop moment. It's all about to come crashing down. You can't run after joy and personal pursuit of pleasure forever, ignoring God in the world he's made. He's the God of pleasure. He's the God of goodness. He's given it all to us. But you pursue joy away from him, he'll never have you succeed. Remember, well, I don't know whether you remember, you probably have seen all those years ago, Johnny Wilkinson's famous drop goal in the 2003 Rugby World Cup. What a great moment that was for English rugby fans. He described literally minutes after that high point in his career, early 20s, the sense of total disillusionment Existential angst. I've been aiming for this all my life, yet within minutes of achieving the joy that I claimed and threw myself into, it's just like ashes. It's falling away. The serotonin kick didn't last as long as we'd hoped, and we need more. Does joy ever last? Jesus says in the race of life, you can run, but you can't hide. There's quite a striking scene. If you have seen the film Catch Me If You Can, on Christmas Eve in the movie, Frank phones Hanratty, who is the FBI agent. And basically, he's more or less vulnerably conceding that for all his running and pursuing joy and pursuing the high life and chasing down the dreams and getting the dreams, he's actually dreadfully alone. He never arrives at all. He's like the hamster in the wheel, chasing, but he never gets there. And in fact, he can't stand the guilt of all that he's done, everyone he's trampled on to get to the goal that he's after. He's locked in. He can't stop running. And maybe some of us today feel like that. We're just locked in. We can't stop running. That's one of the biggest problems with this kind of pursuit. You never arrive if you're seeking this kind of joy. You get obsessed with the chase, finding yourself wanting more, still hungry, still unsatisfied. The dream relationship, the pull you were longing for, just didn't satisfy. So you want to find someone funnier or fitter, more in tune with you. Or the dream selection to the uni or the college team. You want, good for me getting there. I want to get into the uni squad. I want to get better than that. I want to get my internship. I really desperately want my career when I graduate. That's one of the biggest problems of seeking down joy. Chase it in this kind of way. You can run, but you'll never arrive. You'll hold it in your hand and it'll be like ashes and it'll fall through. Chasing down dreams, living it up, never looking back. Never actually getting anywhere. Never actually achieving the ultimate fulfillment, the satisfaction we are craving for, we were made for, we long for. We can run, but we won't arrive. It's a big problem with this pursuit of joy. It's not the biggest. It's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is that Jesus tells us you can run, but you can't hide. That's what Jesus says to this bloke in the story. He's not simply saying you're not going to be satisfied by pulling down barns, building bigger ones. Getting caught is a matter of inevitability. That's what Carl Hanratty says to Frank in the movie. And it's what Jesus says in our story today. So again, little number 20 in our passage, page 43. God said to him, look down there, you fool. This very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you've prepared for yourself? How dare you, in other words, think that you can hide from God in his world, is what Jesus is saying. How dare you think you can get more and more, chase dreams, have joy in stuff or people or success or achievements. But ignore the giver of all those things. Chasing dreams, living it up, never looking back, never looking up. Basically acting as functional atheists. You may not call yourself an atheist, maybe you are, but functionally we're all atheists naturally. Some of us live a fairly decent life in that functional atheism. Some of us are pretty messed up, if we were honest, if other people knew us as we were. But human nature, friends, is to ignore God. As long as it makes me happy, chase down your dreams. That's the creed of our age today. It's the new religious liturgy that so many of us are defined by. Make up the rules with no reference to God. I'm going to chase down this, chase joy here, chase joy there. It's not on. If you live a life running after joy away from the God of joy, the God who made this world to enjoy, you push him out of the picture, and sooner or later he'll say to us, friend, I will go out of your picture. But to have God out of your picture is to be the worst existence imaginable, because God made us. Every moment we have of our lives is in his hands. Everything good that we enjoy, all those dreams that we want to pursue, whether that is a relationship or it is getting into the uni squad or achieving in my degree or in the orchestra or the graduate scheme or sex or family or the joys of a good night out, they are all gifts from God the Creator. A God who has made this beautiful world to enjoy, but to be pushed out of his picture is to lose out now on all those things that we have wanted. So no more love, no more joy, no more rest, no more friendship. Just regret. and shame and sadness forevermore. It's hard to talk about it. The Bible uses, Jesus uses the language of hell, this place you do not want to go to, where the bolts effectively are on the inside. We've chosen this if we've rejected God's loving advances towards us, preferring to run after anything and everything apart from him. You can run, but you can't hide, is what Jesus is saying. Our time's nearly done. There's a conclusion to the story to go, and then I'm going to literally hand over to you for questions. So please, this may be, I'm sure it is, totally controversial. I'd love you to shoot me down and come back at me, either from the floor or one-to-one. But let's just see how the story ends. Verse 21, little number 21 in our books again. This is how it will be, says Jesus, with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God. Just like the film Catch Me If You Can, the story needn't end in tears. Jesus says to this voice who shouts out to him, and he says to us all today, don't waste your life, get rich towards God. That's the conclusion. Get rich towards God. Don't run after what doesn't satisfy. Get to know God instead. Now, you may hear that and think, in fact, as Emily was speaking, you may think that's totally weird. What on earth are you saying? Get to know God instead. God can satisfy. What does that mean? Because I guess many of us were brought up under the assumption that if God exists, he's out to ruin us. He's out to spoil our fun. He's out to dilute our lives. He's going to turn our wine into water. He's going to tie us up with his thou shalt nots. And he's just going to ruin you. And if that's what you've picked up about God, then I really apologize, because that is not the God of the Bible. That's not the Christian God anyway. The first miracle that Jesus does in John's gospel is what? Turns water into wine. He's come to throw a great party. He says in John 8, come to me and you will have life, and life in all its fullness. You want to be a joy seeker? Get to know Jesus. I don't think anyone gets this any better than C.S. Lewis, the Oxford prof who wrote the Chronicles of Narnia. This is what he writes in one very famous essay called Weight of Glory. And if you want to follow this up, just Google Weight of Glory, C.S. Lewis. Read this. It's a cracking essay. This is what he says. It would seem that our Lord finds our desires not too strong, but too weak. We're half-hearted creatures fooling about with drink and sex and ambition, when infinite joy is offered us, like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum because he cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday by the sea. We are far too easily pleased. Friends, the message of Luke chapter 12, which we've been looking at just briefly, and you can take that home with you, by the way, when we're done here, so please take it and keep reading both before and after that little story. The message is that joy can last. Can joy last? Yes, joy can last, but it needs to have its source in something permanent. If the source of joy is like a pool of water, that water will drain out and be gone. But if the source of joy is the infinite fount of joy, found in God himself, the author of joy, the author of it all, the God of joy and love and beauty, that source of joy is like a waterfall that has no top or bottom or back or front or sides, but constantly flows and always satisfies, never fails. So, as Jesus says to the guy there, I would say to you, get rich towards God, invest in him, get to know him. I don't know, some of you may be about to graduate. I think these days as students are perhaps the best days you will have. A little bit more time, certainly lots of friends to talk with about what does it mean to know this God? Because the claim is that in knowing him, he gives phenomenal joy. He wants us to have joy in his presence forevermore. The way he goes on to do that is, he says, look, I'm going to come into this world in Jesus. I'm going to take all the mess, all the failures that you have done by dying on the cross and rising again. That's I guess, the heart of the Christian message. You can come back on that if you'd like afterwards. And he says, if you trust in me, I will assure you, I will give you joy. That whatever you face, the highs and lows of today will never, never end. We've seen you can run. We all run in this life. We run after joy. We pursue whatever we can, but we won't hide eventually. That will come crashing down. So get rich towards God. Pursue him. He's the one who has made us to know us and to know his joyful smile. Right, that's enough for me. I'm going to hand straight back to Emily, and she's got a little bit to say, and then we're going to go over some questions, I think. Is that right? Or, yeah, great. Okay, back to you, Emily.
Thank you for your questions. All really great questions. The first question is, does this mean that Christians are always happy? And that comes with a similar question. Clearly, Christians do not experience perfect happiness all the time, since they experience disappointments and sufferings like everyone else.
Yeah, thank you. No, and given I was only speaking for 20 minutes, couldn't go into every kind of caveat and qualification. So it's quite striking. In the New Testament, the Apostle Paul is in prison, he's in pain, and yet he commands people who are reading his letter to say, rejoice in the Lord always. I say it again, rejoice. Elsewhere in another letter, he says, we are sorrowful, yet always rejoicing. Now, what do you mean by that? So are we sad or are we happy? I guess the thing is with joy is it kind of goes deeper and lasts longer than the experience of happiness. It's not an emotion like, when you get your exam results, you think, yeah, or oh no. Joy transcends both of those experiences. I guess the reason I can say that is because Jesus would say that, or the New Testament would say that it was the joy of what was ahead of Jesus that made him go through to the cross. So even as Jesus died on the cross, he was able to experience joy in this. You think, how on earth are you doing that? I think the point is two things. One, right now, to know that I am loved securely by the person who made me and who'll never let me go. I think we're all made to crave the smile of someone who really matters. And often our seeking of joy is a desire to have someone smile on us who really matter. Whether that's a lover, whether that's a parent, whether that's my peer group, whether that's my Instagram following. I want people who matter smiling on me, and that gives me joy. The fact is, if you know Jesus Christ, then because of what he has done on the cross, you can permanently know the smile of the most important person in the world, namely God. And he'll give it that smile on you right away, whether or not you have a good or a bad day. So to start off with, this life you can have his permanent smile, but then it really kicks in the other side of this life, into life beyond this life. And one writer describes this life as our spare life. This is the kind of departure lounge. Eternal joy is what the Bible also speaks of. Not only knowing God right now, but knowing the pleasures of being in relationship with God that lasts through the highs and lows and eventually the low of death into life beyond the grave, an eternal joy. So there's the present day joy of knowing the smile of someone who matters. And there's the eternal joy of being in God's presence, living in a world of perfection, which we often call heaven. So that doesn't mean that we're always happy, but it does mean that this life, there's a goal to it. And even in the hard times, we still have that smile of the one who matters. So I guess that's a kind of follow-up. Someone might want to follow that up, actually, the person who asked that question, or you may have more questions coming in. So
there is a second question, which is, how do you get rich towards God?
How do you get rich towards God? Okay, thank you. I suppose it's slightly enigmatic, isn't it, that little bit that Jesus says? This is how it will be for anyone who is not rich towards God. I think Jesus is speaking of having God as our greatest treasure, seeing wealth rather than being the pursuit. I don't want to pursue money or stuff. I want to see Jesus. I want to see God as my treasure. Elsewhere, Jesus told a parable about a guy who came across a field, and in it was an amazing pearl, the pearl of greatest price. And he sold everything he had to get hold of this field, because in the field was a pearl of greatest price. He treasured this pearl more than anything else. And I think getting rich towards God is treasuring God and recognizing he is like this pearl of greatest price. If I could offer you something that was the most beautiful, perfect, precious thing in all of the world, you would say, okay, I'm prepared to forego lots of things. In fact, I'll forego everything to get this. I think that's what getting rich towards God is, seeing him as the greatest prize we can possibly know. Yeah. Any other questions? Or maybe our time is done. Is it?
Yes. Do you have any final things to say?
Well, if anyone has any follow-up questions, they can from the floor. But I guess I'd really encourage you. It may be May week or exams May week, and then we're done. But explore the claims of Christ, because these are huge claims, and I'm not expecting just one 20-minute lecture at you to suddenly convince you to kind of pursue Jesus more than anything else, because you need to be convinced of that. But the CICCU here loves to help you dig into these questions, and will link you up with someone else to help you kind of study the Bible for yourself and deal with the questions that you've got. But thanks so much.
Yes, thank you.